everyone, and welcome to UCSC Silicon Valley Extension's Career Services Workshop. UCSC Silicon Valley Extension is your UC in Silicon Valley. We offer professional development courses, certificate programs, and specializations for you to update your skills for today's job market, and we are the leading workforce educator in Silicon Valley. Our courses are designed by experienced instructors who are actually working in their field. We serve new college graduates needing practical skills, people in the workforce looking to update skills or change direction, and lifelong learners interested in studying with industry experts in the heart of Silicon Valley. So today's topic is all about professional branding and soft skills. I'm happy to announce our wonderful presenter today, Jenn Smith. She is one of the amazing coaches that you can choose to book services with SMUs or for her own company called Flourish Careers. Jenn Smith's professional roots are grounded deep within corporate America. Her progressive global HR leadership experience spans 15 years across multiple industries, including Fortune 200 companies. Now she is a career crusader on a mission to support early and mid-career professionals in navigating the new world of work by resetting boundaries and igniting action to live their happiest, healthiest lives. Before I hand it over to Jennifer to begin, we ask that any questions that you have during the presentation to submit to the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen or chat, and then we'll go over as many as we can after the presentation. If we do not get to your question, don't worry, we can follow up with you after the webinar. And also, if there are questions that you think of after the webinar is completed, please feel free to email us at extension@ucsc.edu, and we'll forward the questions over to Jennifer. Thank you so much. And Jennifer, you can take it away.
Excellent. Thank you, Nisa, for that kind introduction. It is an honor to be here with all of you today to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is professional branding. So today we are going to talk through what professional branding is, how to build your brand and refine it, especially if you are making a career change. But even if you're not making a career change, this is all still going to be relevant. And then finally, we'll talk about how to bring your brand to life. So I'm going to go ahead. There is a workbook that goes along with this. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat, and you can grab the workbook to follow along, or you can use that as you build your brand after this webinar. As Nisa mentioned, we will have time at the end. So if you have a question, you're more than welcome to throw that in the chat, and we will get to them towards the end. So before we get into the content, I thought I would share a quick story about my background and how I use my professional brand along with my transferable skills to make a major career change from operations management into human resource management. So my first job out of college was with Frito-Lay, which is part of PepsiCo, and I was a frontline supervisor in a potato chip factory. And I worked the graveyard shift, so 11 at night to the 7 in the morning. I will tell you that making potato chips in the middle of the night was not my dream job out of college, although I definitely learned more about running a business in that role than any other job. And that was mostly because I didn't want to be the one to call my boss at 3 o'clock in the morning when I couldn't make a decision. So I worked at Frito-Lay in various manufacturing and distribution roles for about 4 years, and then started to contemplate the big what's next question. And so after a lot of thinking, analyzing, and overthinking, I decided that I wanted to make a career pivot into human resources. And when I first decided to make this change from operations management into HR, my manager told me no. So I didn't have the standard HR education, I didn't have the appropriate work experience, and I did not have the right network. But what I did have was a positive mindset. I understood the business literally from the ground up, and I did have the scrappiness to roll up my sleeves and do whatever it took to get the job done. So I built on those skills and started to realize one of the things that the organization really valued from their HR leaders was union experience. And this is something that I did not have any experience in. And so what I did was I decided to take a job as an operations manager in a union environment to gain that experience literally from the ground up. It was a really tough job. And the thing with this job is that it was an operations manager located at our corporate or regional headquarters, where all of our HR vice presidents and our HR support was located. So as I took this job, it gave me the experience of negotiating contracts and managing a business that includes that extra layer of complexity when there's a union. And that one of the HR vice presidents who worked at that regional headquarters was a key player in all of this work. So she helped with the contract negotiation and she really helped manage that union environment. And so I was able to build my network, and eventually she became my mentor. So doing this really extra, not so fun work showed my eagerness and allowed me to gain that union experience, build on my network, improved my ability to do the job. And so then, lucky for me, when a junior level HR role opened up in a location that nobody else wanted to move to, I raised my hand, went through a very rigorous interview process, and got the job. And then since then, I've spent the last 15 plus years in human resources. So it's been an excellent career choice for me. So 4 years in operations management, and then 4 years in human resources with Pepsi. And then I decided I really wanted to move back to Western New York. So at that point, I moved all over the country. I was ready to come home. And so I transitioned in HR to a company called Ingram Micro, which is a technology distribution company. And I supported their sales organization. So at that point, I had the entire supply chain. I knew everything from raw materials to getting product into the end user or consumer's hand, which was really cool. And then I decided I wanted to get back to manufacturing. So there was an organization called Thermo Fisher Scientific. You might be familiar with them. They have a big presence in California. They're a biotech company, and they were looking for an HR leader. So I was able to get back to my roots in manufacturing, where I spent 8 years at this company in multiple different HR roles. My last role was leading a college recruiting team. And so I had the opportunity to build a talent strategy and hire hundreds of interns and recent grads across all different roles in the supply chain. And in that role, it became very obvious that people needed career support, interviewing, resumes, job search strategy, all of the things. And so I started a side gig working for the Muse, which is an outstanding career coaching platform. And I loved it. It really generated my energy. Even though I was doing this nights and weekends, I couldn't wait to do that work. And so eventually that work kind of started outweighing the day job. And at the end of 2019, I took the leap from corporate America, and I do this work full-time with my own business called Flourish Careers. So my intent with telling that story is to shine some light on two things. One, transferable skills and experiences is kind of a hard concept for people to get the grasp of when they're making a career change. So hopefully that story brings a little bit of light. We're going to go deeper in the content here. And then second, I always say, if I can make that kind of a change early in my career, then anyone, trust me, anyone can do it. So when I'm not working, I love exploring Western New York. You can see in the picture there, that's my dog. Her name is Tula. She's a 128-pound Newfoundland, and she's a true gentle giant. And we love just getting out and exploring all that Western New York has to offer. So my objective today is to walk you through three things. First, how to build your professional brand. So what is a brand? Why it's important, especially when making a change. Second, refining your brand. So we're going to dive into your transferable skills, which is one of the key aspects of this work. And then finally, bringing your brand to life. So I'm going to share some recommendations on how to showcase your brand while you're in your job search. And just like a good business and marketing strategy, you must understand what makes you valuable and what differentiates you and why someone would hire you. So you have to position yourself as a high value hire right from the start. And all of that starts with your brand. So I know that professional branding is kind of a buzz term, but it is also a very important piece in careers, especially when making a change. The best way to stand out is to be yourself. There is nobody else out there that has the same skills and the same experiences as you do. And the thing is, companies want to hire humans. They do not want to hire robots. There is enough of that out there. They do not want to hire corporate jargon. They don't want to hire generic. They want to hire humans. They want to hire you. And so it's really important that your brand and your personality really differentiates you among the crowd. One thing I want to mention here is that your professional brand is not your job title. So I have this conversation almost daily with clients, and a lot of people relate their professional brand to their job title. But in reality, your job title does not make you unique. It does not tell people what you stand for. And it doesn't even tell people where you stand in a hierarchy if you're in an organization with a hierarchy. So, and the reason is job titles mean different things at every company. A specialist at one company is going to be something totally different at another company. So my guess is when you're thinking about what you want to be known for and you're thinking about building your brand, it's probably not simply your job title. So step one is building your brand. So you want to define your professional brand. And I'm going to share with you what I mean by professional brand. We're going to talk about how to develop your brand and then hone in on your transferable skills. Okay, so starting with understanding what your professional brand is. So Carly Lyon is a brand expert that I've worked with, and she defines your brand as a combination of how you see yourself, as well as how others see you, related to where you want to go in your career. So it's the way in which you are recognized and remembered. And it's a result of consciously bringing together your skills, your traits, and your qualities for a purpose. And when, like I was saying before, when you're making a change, it's really a balance of where you've been with where you want to go. So your unique brand is going to showcase your value and position you as that highly valuable hire right from the start. It's really about your reputation and what you stand for in your professional world. So, what do you stand for? This is a big question. It's a hard question to answer. And this is something that I encourage my clients to really think about when they're in the job search, because this is really what's going to elevate you as a candidate. And so a couple ways to think about this. One way is to start with the end in mind. So if you can just imagine or picture yourself, your future self, in your next best role. And then you start to answer some questions. So how does your future self spend their day? Who is in your network? What kind of skills do you have? Where are you working? What are you wearing when you're working? What are you achieving in your career? And what do you value in your career? So these are all things that you can start to think about as you envision yourself in your next best role. And doing this, visualizing yourself at the time of peak success, will both help define who you are and what you stand for. So the second thing to help you define your brand is thinking about what you want somebody to know about you. So if you had the opportunity to introduce yourself to anyone, what would you want them to know about you? So here I just have, this example of what are 3 things you want someone to know about you when they first meet you. So for me, I want people to know that I am on a mission to help career-minded professionals align their head and their heart to their career in order to enjoy a happy and healthy career. I want people to know that I have insider experiences as an HR leader and a talent acquisition leader. And I want them to know I care. I love this work, and I want to help as many people as I possibly can find work they love. So these are kind of like my guiding principles that I try to articulate in all the places. Anytime that I meet someone, I try to make sure these 3 things come across. I get it. This is not easy. It's very difficult, but once you put the time and energy into it, it's going to support not only your job search, but frankly, your entire career. And of course, it's going to change over time. But once you kind of go through this exercise once, you can evolve it as you grow in your career. So once you have an idea of this overarching career story, you kind of have this idea of what you stand for, what you want to be known for. You have to clearly articulate your brand so it's going to resonate with others. And if you're job searching, ideally, it's going to resonate with your top companies. And so to do this, what you want to do is leverage your transferable skills and experiences. Again, this is a balance of where you've been with where you want to go. So transferable skills and identifying transferable skills is an area that I see a lot of job seekers get stuck. And it makes sense because you are in your head all day long, and it's hard to take a step back to showcase what you have to offer. So transferable skills are defined as experiences and skills that you've used in one role or industry that can also be used in another role, a new company, or a different sector. So they can be hard skills, which are competencies like accounting or bookkeeping. They can be soft skills, which are traits like empathy or compassion. They can also be leadership skills, which are talents like inspiring and motivating a team or inspiring and motivating others. Quick example here. If you are a dental hygienist, which I doubt anyone here is a dental hygienist, but this is a good example. So if you're a dental hygienist, cleaning teeth is a critical hard skill that won't likely transfer anywhere else, unless maybe you're going to be a vet tech and clean animals' teeth or something. But a dental hygienist most likely has amazing customer service skills and the ability to make patients feel safe and comfortable, which is highly transferable to a new role or a new industry. So hopefully you can see the connection there. Okay, so now I just want to ask a quick question. So true or false, and maybe you can tell me in the chat what you think about this. So when you're thinking about your transferable skills, true or false, is it a good idea to consider things outside your work experience? So things like school or volunteer opportunities or side hustles or sports or community involvement. True or false? We've got true, 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 true. Awesome. All right. Okay, good. I see some friends in here. Awesome. It's good to see you guys, Loria and Ariel. Okay, yes, true. You want to take all of your experiences into consideration. So, and again, you want to think about that end result, where you want to end up. And if that includes some of your volunteer or side hustles or, any work outside of work, you definitely want to include it. So a quick example here is I worked with a client who wanted to switch from, she was a marketing analyst and she wanted to be an event coordinator. And she had done a lot of work as an event coordinator at her local art gallery. She actually raised over $150,000, sold out an event, which is a huge accomplishment. And it involves organizational skills, influence skills, communicating, marketing, all of these things that are highly transferable. And that was all in her spare time. So she was very successful in this volunteer. It was not even on her resume at all. And that's why when I work with folks, I ask the question on my intake forms about volunteer experience, because a lot of times people think about work and outside of work as separate things. And my mission is to bring this together for people. So that's an example of how you can include outside work on your, in your brand, on your resume, in your career. So now let's talk about your transferable skills. There are 3 steps to identifying your transferable skills. Step number 1 is identifying the skills needed in your next best job. So here I recommend dissecting job descriptions. You could go out and get 10 different job descriptions. It doesn't have to be at your ideal company. It could be across, an industry that you're interested in, and just start seeing what the trends are across all of those job descriptions. The best way to identify skills needed in your next best job is to talk to people who do the work and really get an understanding of what those skills and experiences are for you to be successful. Step number 2 is to think through how you've done those skills at work or in your personal life. So just take a blank piece of paper and just start writing everything related to those skills that you've done. And then you could almost do like 2 columns and start connecting the dots. So you can summarize the skills and experiences that you have that are going to serve you in your new path, and just start seeing what those transferable skills and experiences look like. Quick example here. So I worked with someone who was really good at public speaking, and they wanted to work as a trainer, a corporate trainer. Perfect example. They've got public speaking, they've been on panels, they've done, webinars. And so that should be highlighted on their resume or their LinkedIn profile or any of their materials as they are looking for that corporate training role. So ultimately, you want to make it as easy as possible for the person encountering your brand to know that you are the perfect person for the job. It's up to you to connect the dots for them. So, recruiters are looking at resumes really quickly. People are scanning LinkedIn profiles really quickly. So you have to try to connect the dots for them as best as you possibly can. So just to share, I listed out a couple in-demand, transferable skills that could be helpful for you if you are in the process of a career change. So with the world adapting and readapting to so many recent changes, at the start and following through this era of the pandemic, these are some transferable skills that are particularly in demand. So being agile and adaptable goes without saying. So companies need people that can roll with the punches and adjust and thrive in response to change. Being self-motivated. So being the kind of person who completes a task or project without even being asked never goes out of style. Problem solving. This one is a no-brainer. Companies are hiring people to solve problems. So whether you are planning and coordinating an event or dreaming up the next best software, if you have the eagerness to bring a fresh solution, that will shine through in your brand, and companies are going to want that. Being resourceful. So with so many teams working virtually or alternate schedules, companies are looking for people who can find innovative ways to overcome all the obstacles. And then finally, tech savvy. So this one goes without saying. So I remember in manufacturing, we're operating PLC equipment, and then obviously working in a home office and doing webinars. There, you have to be tech savvy, and being comfortable with tech is going to be essential today and for the future. So these are just some examples. The other example that I like to share is that functional skills are also highly transferable across industries. So, my example of HR, I worked in food and beverage manufacturing, I worked in technology distribution, and I worked in biotech. So the foundational HR skills are highly transferable across all of those industries. Same thing, just use an account manager as an example. A great account manager can manage accounts, whether they're in the fashion industry or they're in the ed tech industry. So you can see that some of these foundational skills, everybody has them. It's just a matter of connecting the dots and showcasing them throughout your search. Okay, so now it is time to refine your brand. So you build your brand thinking through that future version of yourself and identifying your transferable skills and experiences. And then second, once you do that, you want to refine your brand. You really want to distill it down into words or sentences that describe who you are and what you're looking for. So in this work, I have to point out that words matter. So when someone's encountering you, if they're not in a face-to-face conversation, which is not very likely, they're most likely going to find you through your resume, your LinkedIn profile, or some other social media, words are going to matter. So you want to use words that make somebody want to jump in and learn more. So some of these things that are really dull and overused are going to make people, just kind of glance right by. So if you're having trouble coming up with brand words, a couple things you can do. First, phone a friend. Or email or text, a couple of your friends or colleagues or your family members, or maybe even a cross-reference of different people in your lives, and ask them for 5 words that they would describe you and your work style. And then once you have a list of words, you can analyze them and you can see which ones resonate with you. And you can play a little game with the thesaurus and see if you can find words that really jump out and describe you and your brand. Another way to approach this is if you do have some dream companies or your top companies in mind that you want to work with, you could really take a look at their website, take a look at their job descriptions, and find the words that they use to describe their company. And then if those words resonate with you, use them in your marketing materials and your brand. That will obviously easily connect the dots from an employer's perspective. Another thing is that with this notion around words is that if you are applying directly to a job and you have that job description in front of you, it's always a good idea just to take a look at your resume and make sure that the words match. So for example, if the job description uses the word self-motivated and you have the word independent on your resume, switch those out. Switch your resume to say self-motivated. So again, the more you can speak the language of where you want to go and the folks that you're trying to attract, the better off you're going to be, and you're going to position yourself for success in your search. So you narrow down your list to 5 words, and then you want to start to refine that and distill that into sentences. So you can take your future self, you can take your transferable skills and experiences, you take your brand words and start to put that together in a couple sentences to describe who you are and what you stand for in your career. Okay, so now that we've built your brand, we've determined what you stand for, you've identified your transferable skills and experiences, you've refined your brand by identifying your words, it's time to bring your brand to life. So what do I mean by that? Where are others likely to encounter your brand? So you want to think about, depending on where you want to go, you want to think about all the places that someone is going to encounter your brand or get in contact with you. So I've talked about so far your resume and your LinkedIn. Those are most likely the most popular if you're in a professional job search. Networking and informational interviews is somewhere people might encounter your brand. A cover letter is a great place to articulate who you are and what you stand for and give examples of your transferable skills and experiences. Interviews, when you get to the point of job interviews, that will be a great place. And sometimes other social media platforms. So if you're a writer, maybe Twitter is a platform that you use often. Or if you have a blog, you want to make sure that your brand is clearly represented on your blog or anywhere, like I said, anywhere someone's going to encounter you, especially online. So I'm going to walk through a couple examples of what this might look like. And first, I want to talk about LinkedIn. And I understand that not all professions are on LinkedIn. So if you're a classroom educator, or maybe if you work in the restaurant industry, you might not use LinkedIn as much as the professional world. But for those that do use LinkedIn, I personally believe that LinkedIn is more important than your resume when you are job searching. And I know that that's a controversial statement, but bear with me. And the reason I believe this is because when I was a recruiter and I was out there scouring for top talent, that LinkedIn was the first place that I went to, regardless if anyone submitted their resume to me. So there's a role out there, it's called a sourcer, a talent sourcer, and they're out there sourcing the internet for top talent. And that's where your LinkedIn profile can literally work for you when you sleep. And so I recently saw a stat out there that said 3 people are hired every minute on LinkedIn. 3 people every minute are hired on LinkedIn. So if that doesn't tell you that this is an important platform, I don't know what does. So it's an excellent platform. I love their mission is to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. So it's not Instagram, it's not Facebook, it's not Twitter, it is a professional network. And LinkedIn does a great job to keep it professional. So to stand out, you have to create a compelling profile. And I wanted just to talk about some of the top places to showcase your brand on LinkedIn. So first is your photos. So as humans, we are wired to look for faces. It adds personality behind the words, and it's the first thing people are going to see when they visit your profile. So Professional headshots are best, but you don't have to spend any money. You can totally take a professional photo with your iPhone. And then the other thing is a background banner. So I see a lot of profiles that don't put any effort into their background banner. And I think that's a great place to showcase a little bit more of your personality. Maybe you can relate it to the industry or the role that you're interested in. That would really start to bring your brand to life. Then the second place on LinkedIn is your headline. So this is prime real estate. It's just like the headline of a newspaper. You want to create a compelling statement to let someone know immediately who you are and what you do. It's only 120 characters, so you sometimes have to get a little creative in what you're using that prime real estate for. So you can go back to your brand words, you can look up, keywords, and you really just want to use that space to pinpoint exactly what you do. So for example, mine says career coach and consultant at Flourish Careers, and then former talent acquisition and HR leader. So if you go back to my idea around the 3 things I want people to know about me, that includes 2 things that I want people to know: that I'm a career coach and consultant, I have my own business, and I have been in the talent acquisition and HR space. You can also get ideas from others. So go ahead and take a peek at some, if there's an influencer out there that you really, love, or an industry that you're really excited about, take a look and see what others are including on their profiles. I recently did a training and I saw one that had somebody had a side hustle as a photographer. So their title or their headline was data center tech by day and then photographer by night. So I thought that was a really cool way to kind of pull two professions together into one person. So then you've got your photos, you've got your headline, and then it's time for your about section. So this is also a place where I see people just put like one sentence or skip it. But this really is the place for you to shine. It is conversational. It's a great place to introduce yourself, show what you do, tell them why it matters, tell them how you want to make an impact, and invite a connection. That's really what it's all about. So those are a couple ways that you might showcase your brand on LinkedIn. I will also just let you know that LinkedIn does have places where recruiters can search for you, and they can search for keywords. So your headline and your skills section especially are keyword searchable. So you want to make sure that at least your headline and your skills section have words, if you want to get recruited, have words that a recruiter might be looking for when they are searching for talent. Okay, so that's how you might showcase your brand on LinkedIn. And so now let's talk about your resume. Okay, so the goal of your resume is to make it as easy as possible for the reader to know that you are the perfect person for the job. It should tell a story. You are not just regurgitating a play-by-play of your entire work history. You are balancing where you've been with where you want to go. The stats are true. I'll tell you, when I was a recruiter, we had something called speed browse in our applicant tracking system. We would literally be looking at 7 resumes side by side. I'm scanning them from top to bottom. And if those words don't jump out on the paper, I'm moving on, especially when I have 150 to 200 resumes to look at in just one job that I'm recruiting for. Not to mention, I most likely have 50 jobs that I'm recruiting for. So it's a very fast-paced thing when recruiters are looking at resumes. So the 4 places to highlight your brand on your resume is first, your headline. So same thing like LinkedIn, you want to make sure your resume has a headline. And this is a great place to immediately tell the reader who you are and what you're looking for. So in this instance, you can see creative director is the job title. That if I was looking for a job as a creative director, that would be the headline. And then it combines with the professional profile. So you can see in this example, there's a subheading that says artistic strategist, thought starter, cutting edge concepts. So those words tell me that this person is a trailblazer, they're a visionary, they are on the leading edge of innovation. So it immediately grabs my attention. If I'm looking for a creative director, I'm sucked in. And then in your profile, you can include a couple sentences about, if you're really passionate about the industry or about the role, or, if you want to make an impact, how you want to make an impact. So that is a great place to start to grab somebody's attention. Instead of you can obviously use your brand words. If you have a sentence, a short sentence that you wanted to use instead of those words, you could do that too. So a quick example would be, I had an example of a client, that nonprofit leader who has successfully raised $3 million for art and culture charities. So if you have a great experience to showcase, you can go ahead and put that in your headline as well. Then from there, you move to your work experience. And I'm a big fan of showcasing related work experience. And that's where you highlight your transferable skills and experiences. So you don't need, again, that whole play-by-play of your entire career, only the things that are related to where you want to go, even if that was 20 years ago. So when I started the college recruiting team at my last job, I had done college recruiting, but it was very early in my career when I first got into HR. But I made sure that stood out on my resume and in my conversations. So you want to include all of your relevant work experience. And then the other section that I think is that's important is your skills and expertise section. So this is a great, very easy place to build on your brand. And when people are skimming your resume, going through that speed browse, if they see those expertise and skills and it's directly related to that job description, super easy place to showcase who you are, what you stand for as it's related to where you're going. Okay, so now we've talked about a few places to showcase your brand. I would like to mention something very important. So the number one mistake I see people make with building their brand is inconsistency. So you must tell a cohesive story. And my favorite analogy for talking about the importance of consistency is related to party planning. I am the worst party planner. I would much rather have a spontaneous backyard barbecue than plan something extravagant, but I found that this is a good example and it seems to resonate with people. So if you are planning a party and you wish to have a theme, you're going to pick one theme. You might pick a backyard laid back gathering, or perhaps you are going to have a theme around a 70s disco party. But can you imagine combining both of those themes into one party? You might end up with some great stories, even better photos, although it's probably not going to make much sense to your guests, and it would probably cause some confusion. And this is the same thing for a recruiter or a hiring manager who has your resume and it states that you are a social media manager, and then heads over to LinkedIn where your headline says something like, video game industry guru, creative blogger, and digital marketing specialist. So yeah, there might be a little bit of a connection there because, digital marketing and social media could potentially go together, but it's not giving a very clear picture and it's not consistent. And it's going to make me really have to think about how to connect those dots. And again, we're moving fast. We're not going to be able to have the time to think. Somebody else connects those dots for me. They're going to be the one to get the phone call. Okay, so now let's summarize. Oops. So your professional brand is a result of consciously bringing your unique traits, skills, and experiences together for purpose. It positions you as a highly valuable hire right from the start, probably before you even start your job search. You build your brand by thinking about your future and your next best role and identifying those transferable skills and experiences. You're going to refine your brand by identifying your brand words. And then you're going to bring your brand to life through consistent application where everyone or anyone would encounter you. As a refresher, your transferable skills can be hard skills, they can be soft skills, or they can be leadership skills. And you want to remember that no one is going to magically assume how or why you'd make a great fit for a particular role. It is your job to ensure that your brand and your career story makes sense as the very best candidate for the decision makers. And all of that starts with your brand. So I know that this is easier said than done. I have pulled together some resources for you. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in the chat again. You can download the workbook, the professional brand workbook. And then I've got a couple articles on the last page of that workbook that will also help you and guide you through your brand refresh. So as we wrap up, in the spirit of accountability and igniting action, I would leave you with this question. What is one small step you can take today that would make the biggest impact to build your professional brand? And that brings our conversation to a close for today. I thank you all for joining and wanted to mention, if you are currently contemplating or navigating a career change and you need the help, I would love to invite you to check out my signature career change framework, which is called Fried to Flourishing. And you, for being a participant, if you enter the code UCSC22 at checkout, you would get a 10% discount. And I know the Muse also has a partnership with UCSC, and the Muse has 50 plus fantastic career coaches, an excellent selection of options for different partnerships. And so if you're interested, you can definitely check that out as well. So Nisa or Monica, I'd love to turn it back over to you guys to close up or open it up for questions if there are any.
Awesome, thank you. Yes, we do have one question here. Do you recommend changing your job title on your resume to make it more relevant to the job you're applying for, provided it's not inflating your experience?
Yes. Yeah, you definitely don't want to lie by any means on your resume. But yeah, I absolutely, if you're applying for a job, I recommend putting that job title right on your resume before you hit that apply button, for sure. Anything else?
Are there any other questions? All right, well, thank you so much. And again, if anyone has any questions, please reach out to us at extension@ucsc.edu or reach out to Jen directly. And thank you all for attending. And thank you so much, Jen, for hosting this webinar with us.
Of course. Thank you, Nisa. Thanks, everyone.